Hello farm friends, members, and people who are just finding out about Willow Haven Farm. Welcome. I'm Tessa, the farmer's wife. Our farm members know us, and you may know me from other videos that you've seen. Today I am showing you highlights of what members are getting in their market boxes this week. This is what I chose for my market box this week, and I'm going to highlight some things that you might not know about what we have here today. So fruit is always a highlight for everyone. Our fruit is mostly not organic because we're buying local, and it's really hard to get local fruit that's organic. Farmer Ruben was just explaining to some people the other day that there are a few farms locally that have tried it, farms or orchards. And sometimes they'll make a section that's organically, that's using organic methods, but after a few years of continuous failure, they realize that with the amount of rain that we get, which produces a lot of disease, organic methods aren't really suited for our growing area. The exception is a really dry spring, which is what we had this year. And we do have a lot of fruit bearing plants on Willow Haven Farm, but they're mostly there for future potential, for diversification of plant life and insect life, to keep the bees happy, for instance. But this year we got our first significant harvest of apples. So they're organically produced on our certified organic farm. We don't even remember what variety these are because they were planted 8 years ago. We'd have to look it up, and Farmer Ruben hasn't had time to look in his records. But he says that he loves the flavor, and so I hope that you do too. I hope you were able to grab some organic apples for your box. We have nectarines, which I really love. I think I like them more than peaches. They don't have the fuzz. I think sometimes they're sweeter. They have a little bit firmer but soft texture. And then we have these purple plums from Schmidt's Berry Farm. Plums are only around for a few weeks, so grab them and enjoy them while you can. Earlier this spring we had yellow Shiro plums, and so plums are really special. And the another thing that we have, let's see if I have any more fruit here. Yep, we have the blackberries here, and blackberries have a longer season than some of the other berries, and they don't have seeds, so they're really a favorite. I love when they get super soft and they're sweet all the way through. Now, I have the opportunity to show you green tomatoes. Green tomatoes are simply red tomatoes that haven't turned color yet. It's a favorite Southern thing to cook, fried. So people have requested them, and we can do green tomatoes anytime the rest of the summer, and we'll pick a whole bunch of them at the end of the season when we know that they won't have enough time to turn ripe in the field before freezing and killing the plants. Now the interesting thing is, after they're picked, they will continue to ripen. So you can see that has happened with this one. We picked it green, just like this one, but it's starting to ripen already and then get softer. You can still use them for fried green tomatoes. They still have the tart taste and the firm texture that a green tomato does. Now, to compare an actual tomato to a tomatillo, which is sometimes called a green tomato, it's different. Tomatoes don't grow with this husk on, and they're different inside. They have a completely different seed structure. They actually remind me more of a ground cherry than of a tomato. I've really been enjoying roasting the tomatillos with a variety of hot peppers, serranos, and jalapenos, and onion, and then blending that up for a salsa verde. Really delicious. All the caramelization that happens, you get that sweet and spicy thing going on. Really good with chips or just on any food that you want to have that on. Okay, so another thing I wanted to show you is onions and onions versus shallots. So I think this is the first week that we are offering red onions. I was just out with the farm crew a little bit ago, and they were explaining what happened to the onions this year. Some years we get a ton of onions and we're able to store them and offer them week after week after week. And this year, much smaller harvest. So that's disappointing for us. The reason is probably our dry spring. They probably didn't get enough water in that 6 weeks from the beginning of May to mid-June. And we only had 2 bins harvested of white onions. So those are fresh summer onions that are great for salsa and salads. The white onions in the field, after planting them, a lot of them died. So we just didn't even get to harvest them. So that's gonna be, only a few people are gonna get white onions. Sorry about that. These are the sweet candy onions. We've been giving these out for the last month or so. This might remind you of a dahlia or a Walla Walla onion, and they're related. These are a sweet onion. Sometimes they're called Spanish onions. They're a fresh summer onion, not meant to be stored, because when you have those sweet sugars in the fruit of something, it's something that doesn't last as long. Sugars will deteriorate. And that's true for anything, vegetables, fruits. The more sugars that are in them, the less long of a storage life they have. So eat them fresh. So same thing with red onions. These are have a sharper, more strong onion flavor. These are a mild, sweeter onion. And then we did get a decent harvest of the yellow storage onions. So when the fresh onions are gone, you'll be getting those. Those are the workhorse of the cooking onion. And you'll find a download in this blog post down below that has an onion guide, which can show you the best things to use each type of onion for. The other, I thought I would also let you know, you can save your onion skins and throw them in your freezer bag for using for broth. And also, if you happen to dye fabric or yarn or anything like that, you probably already know that you can use, collect onion skins and then use them in your preparations for dyeing. So that's a natural dye, and you're gonna get different colors from different colored onion skins, red or yellow or brown. That's a fun project, educational project to do with kids if you're into that kind of thing, or just for yourself if you're a crafter. We still have red potatoes, beets, green peppers. The peppers are starting to turn color in the field. I saw a little bit of yellow come through this week on some of the peppers, so hopefully we'll have enough soon to make whole quarts of colored peppers. And what else do I have here? Oh, the shallots I was going to tell you about. We've given out, I think, the biggest ones first. The ones that came in my box today were smaller sizes. And shallots are different from onions. They have they're divided inside, kind of like cloves of garlic. And I was just looking up the nutrition information for shallots versus onions, which I'll link below, and discovered that shallots actually have a lot more nutrition than onions. They're both really good for anti-cancer properties, the sulfur that are in onions and shallots. So you should always have onions and garlic in your foods, raw and cooked. But shallots have more protein in them, and they have more carbs. They actually have more sugars than onions. And I wasn't able to find what particular onion they're comparing it to. I just explained that different onions have different sugars. So a shallot probably has more sugars than your regular yellow cooking onion, your storage onion that you get in the store most often. Another thing is that hands down, shallots have more vitamins and minerals in them than onions do. Onions have a lot more water, so shallots are more compact and have less water. But you should definitely use them to up your protein, and then the fats are a little bit different, but not significantly. But that I found was very interesting, and you might find that interesting when you look up your the information down below. I was tracking my macros, which some people do for their for guiding their diet, and that's when I discovered it, because I used a shallot and fried shallots up with my eggs instead of an onion this time. And you'll see that bread is right here in front of me. This is the cheddar basil bread. We only make this in the summer, and it's delicious. This is the country sunflower bread. Our bread is all made with sourdough methods and cooked in our brick oven. It's not San Francisco style sourdough, which is meant to be that tart, sour tasting bread. For us, it's a method of making bread. It's a fermentation of the dough using the wild yeast starter and mixing that into the flour and water mixture, and then forming the loaves the next day, letting them proof, and then hours later baking them. So the wonderful thing about sourdough and long cold fermentation is that the action of the yeast on the flour does something. You could think of it of digesting. It changes the nutrients of the wheat into something that's actually more digestible to our systems. So if you think you're gluten intolerant, it would be an interesting experiment, and many of our customers have had this experience where they get sick or they don't digest well regular breads, but a good sourdough bread made organic with organic flours like we have is much easier on them, and they can enjoy bread again. So try that, especially if you have other people in the family that can eat the rest of the loaf. Just take a small piece or a small slice and try it someday when you're feeling good and see what happens. Garlic. We've been giving out garlic for a while, and so maybe you're stockpiling it. And here is a really cool thing that you can do with it. This is fermented garlic. We peeled a whole bunch of it, stuck it in this jar, and then poured a brine and pickling spice over it. And it's been fermenting. Little bubbles have been coming up for the last couple days. And this is an option for you to preserve your garlic whole and to add nutrition to it. So the lacto fermentation adds those probiotics to your foods. Garlic already has super great nutrition, antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral properties, and fermenting it just enhances that into a probiotic. Now, what's coming next? I've already told you that we're waiting for summer squash. Spaghetti squash is usually the first one to come in. And we have the colored peppers I mentioned coming, and then we have more beans coming. Our next patches of beans are loaded, and we're gonna have to be picking them for hours and hours at the end of this week. But as opposed to the green beans, we'll have green and yellow beans. Now, I want you to not be afraid of yellow beans. These ones are not, a lot of times people call them wax beans, and these do not have that hard waxy flavor of yellow wax beans. They're pretty much just like the same green beans except for they're yellow. So enjoy another color bean, and try them side by side. Mix the colors up. The yellow ones will retain their yellow color when cooked. So they'll be great, especially if you're going to use them in like a bean salad or something to give it more color. So the last thing I want to highlight is this huge jar of organic peach preserves. Maybe your kids are going back to school, maybe you're packing them peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I just want to let you know we've got a few of these, so they're more expensive than a tiny jar of jelly, but you get more for your dollar. We had a special request for a bulk size for a restaurant nearby, and so these will be great for, I don't know, if you're batch cooking something that you need peach preserves, or you just have a lot of sandwiches coming up in your life, that a bulk jar of organic peach jam would really be the ticket for you. All right, enjoy your farm food this week. Please tell people about us more and more as these weeks go by. You're going to be mixing in circles new sports teams and school companions and families at the bus stop. Please, please, please tell them about Willow Haven Farm. Farmers markets are going to be closing down. Less fresh food is going to be available from the local stands. The traditional CSAs are going to start finishing up in October. So please tell people about Willow Haven Farm. Use your refer a friend code, forward my blog posts or my videos to people. We would love to have people join us for the fall and winter, because we're not stopping. We're going to keep providing wonderful food for people, and we want this to be a great discovery for your network of friends, to also support local farmers and get the wonderful food that you've been enjoying. So please do us a favor and spread the word about local farms that are delivering wonderful organic food during the winter. That's us. Have a wonderful day. Bye.